Okay, we're going to take a quick look at how to form some questions in Spanish. We have basically three types of questions. We have yes or no questions, sí or no, which are questions that would start with a verb. In English, we would say a question that starts with does or do. So, do you like coffee? Does he speak Spanish? In Spanish, these would just start with a verb, and we would answer them with sí or no. And the easiest way to form these is by changing our intonation to sound like a question. Okay? What this means is if you know how to form a statement, let's use a simple one like Juan habla español. To make this a question, does Juan speak Spanish? All we have to do is literally raise our pitch at the end of the phrase. So, Juan habla español is now a question. Okay? When we write this down, we'll have two question marks. We'll have an inverted or upside down question mark at the beginning, and we'll have a standard question mark like we have in English at the end. Alright, another example of this, just to make sure you've got it, is something such as, let's say, Carlos walks to campus. That would be Carlos camina al campus. To make this a sí or no question with just an intonation shift, we would say Carlos camina al campus. No change in word order. Another super common way to ask a sí or no question is to invert or to flip your subject and your verb. So, using that exact same example I just did with Carlos camina al campus, it's really common to flip it to where our verb is first and then we have our subject. So, camina Carlos al campus or camina al campus Carlos. So we basically move Carlos after the verb somewhere in the sentence. Okay, our third type of questions, well, really our second type of questions are called tag questions, and we have these in English too. This is where we make a statement, like, you're from Mexico, tú eres de México, and then we add what we call a tag on the end. In English we would say, you're from Mexico, right? Or you're from Mexico, aren't you? It's basically when we know the answer to the question already, we just want an affirmation. So in Spanish we would use the words verdad for right. So, tú eres de México, ¿verdad? Or we could say, you're from Mexico, aren't you? And then we would simply say, tú eres de México, ¿no? Alright, so just a simple statement, we add verdad or no on the end. Okay, our third type of question is information questions. All these are the who, what, when, where, why type questions. So you can't just answer it with a sí or a no, you have to give some kind of information. So, same word order as English, basically. So we start with the question word, such as que, alright, follow it by the verb, and then follow it by the subject. So, let's make it, what does Jose eat for breakfast? We would say, que come Jose, or que desayuna Jose. Que desayuna Jose. So let's practice with these, forming sí or no questions from these statements. We've got Jaime habla español. So practice doing this the two different ways I just taught you. First way, you don't change anything about the word order. You just make it sound like a question in your voice. Jaime habla español. Okay. Same thing for the next one down. Let's do it the easy way. ¿Usted está bien? ¿Usted es de Nacogdoches? ¿La profesora habla francés? So your last syllable, your last phrase is being raised in your voice. Okay? Let's do it the other way. We're going to flip our verb and our subject. So we have options. Spanish is flexible. So for the first one, we could say, habla Jaime español. We could even throw Jaime all the way to the very end of the sentence. So, habla español Jaime. ¿Está usted bien? ¿Es usted de Nacogdoches? ¿Habla la profesora francés? Okay? And then, to do tag questions, you would obviously just have the sentence, and then put no at the end. So if I'm pretty sure that Jaime does speak Spanish, I could just say, Jaime habla español, ¿no? Jaime habla español, ¿verdad? Alright, so just to run through some question words, I didn't put them all on here. You can find those all in your book. We have que, which we've seen since the very beginning. So, ¿qué pasa? ¿Qué es? ¿Qué clase es? What is this? ¿Qué es esto? We have quién. ¿Quién eres? Who are you? ¿Quién es? ¿Quién soy? We also have a plural quiénes, okay, which we don't have in English, so if we suspect that the answer to our question is going to be a plural group, we will ask quiénes. So, ¿quiénes son? Who are they? ¿Quiénes son? ¿Cuándo? When. So, for instance, ¿cuándo es la fiesta? ¿Cuándo es el examen? We have cuánto, and then its variants cuántos, cuántas, and cuánta. Okay, so when it's how much, we just use cuánto, and think quantity. That will help you remember the difference between cuánto and cuándo. ¿Cómo? Which we know in phrases like ¿cómo te llamas? Or ¿cómo se dice? How do you say? ¿Dónde? Okay, so when we're asking location, ¿dónde? We also have de dónde. So from where when you're asking about somebody's origin. ¿Por qué? And there are a few more. You can go through the specifics on those in my notes and in your book. So quick practice. So using your question words with the knowledge that habla means he or she speaks, how would you ask the following questions? Okay, número uno, does Miguel speak Spanish? First thing, Spanish does not have an equivalent of does. Okay, so that idea is implied in the sentence. Okay, we don't have a does. All we need is the idea that Miguel speaks Spanish and make it sound like a question. Okay, so one way would be Miguel habla español. If you want to do the inverted order, we would say habla Miguel español or habla español Miguel. Número dos, how, as in how well, how does he speak? Okay, so all we need to do is remember our word for how. ¿Cómo? Remember, there is no does, so we just need the form he speaks. So, ¿cómo habla? Or you could just say, does he speak well? ¿Habla bien? Número tres, how much does he speak? So for how much, think quantity, we have cuánto. So, ¿cuánto habla? ¿Cuánto habla? Número cuatro, why does he speak Spanish? Okay, our word for why, or rather our words, we have two words, porque, with the accent on the I. Porque habla español. And then, número cinco, when does he speak Spanish? Cuando habla español. Okay, es todo por el momento. Hasta luego.